For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, learn about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and you are.
And of course, I am James DeFreitas, and we are here every week, and we are here to talk about some gardening and, of course, real estate. And, again, it always brings me to the point that if people have gardening questions, they can go to your website at Ask Mr. Greenthumb. That's ASKMR, greenthumb.com. They can tap on the Ask button, and literally they can submit a photo right from their phone, so from their smartphone that they've taken a picture with. They can submit a photo, and they can ask us a question, if it's a bug identification, or if it's, trying to find out, hey, what's going right, what's going wrong in my yard. They can do that, and we certainly encourage it. So it's www.askmrgreenthumb.com. So that's www.askmrgreenthumb.com, and we encourage people to go there. If you have interest in learning more about real estate auctions, you can always go to our website, which is floridaauctionteam.com. That's spelled all out. Or if you like the shortened version, that's flauctionteam.com. They both go there. And you can learn more about what we do for Keller Williams and for all of the wonderful Keller Williams agents. So I always like to get that out there in the beginning of our program. So now, we're into September now. And so what might people be thinking about for planting in September for gardening stuff?
Well, August, I think, is too soon for veggies and things, but September is a good time to start getting ready. I would add black cow manure to the soil, organic matter. I save coffee grounds, banana peels I cut up. I'm kind of a nut that way. Eggshells and stuff. You can't get enough good organic matter into our Florida sand. And, we use the term soil here pretty loosely. So improving the soil is important, and maybe the most important thing that we do. So when people say, are you totally organic? Well, I wouldn't call myself totally organic, but I'm 99.9% organic, especially with stuff that I grow. I don't spray my bananas or my avocados hardly. Occasionally, I might spray an avocado with copper if I'm getting into a fungus problem, but that's a rarity. And the bananas, now speaking of that, we did have a picture came, and I think you actually made some.
Yeah, actually, this came to us from the AskMrGreenthumb.com website, and again, he didn't actually have a question.
But he shared with us.
And that's okay, too. People, just because it's titled Ask Mr. Greenthumb doesn't mean necessarily you always have to have a question. Sometimes we're just interested to see how people are, how they're operating, how things are, what's going right and what's going wrong. And the thing is this was a rather personal email.
Yeah, he was one of my, you become friends with the folks that work with you every day. And some of the folks, you're around 12 hours a day.
Sure.
And the doctors, and I don't know how to say this, but there's a brotherly and sisterly love that you wind up having for the staff that works with you. Some people are just putting in the time, but there are a lot of wonderful folks in nursing that are there, and doctors, but nurses in particular, because they're with you for the long haul, who just they become friends. And of course, I talked gardening to everybody while I was over there, because that's part of what I do. And we were talking about bananas to one of them. I grow some bananas.
Sure. Well, and on that, this came from your nurse, William, and his name is William Wambia? I'm sorry. I'm probably butchering that, Mr. William, and that is my bad. But when you don't hear somebody pronounce it, then I have to make a executive decision on how you may say it. But he says, hey, Mr. DeFreitas, I don't know if you remember me, but I wanted to take a quick picture and show you about my dwarf Namwa bananas that I harvested recently. If you recall, we met months ago at the Tampa General ICU. I'm so glad to hear that you're doing well. My best, Nurse William.
Great guy, and I remember him. I remember all my nurses because they were all, so instrumental in keeping you alive. And I say, every once in a while you get a nurse, you can say that they're tired and they're ready to go. But, for those fine folks, the nurses, and also the support staff, the folks in red who often help, bring things to you and help you out on a regular basis. Got to know most of them and found out where they were from. I mean, I had one group who was a young assistant who was from Haiti, and I would go bonjour, because I knew he would know a little bit of French. I know just a wee bit, and but I would say hello and howdy, and we'd talk sports, we'd talk the Bucks, we'd talk the Rays, and I'm like Paul Pipes Porter. I can give you my opinion. May not be worth anything, but I'll tell you what I think, and so will other folks, and that's what I think both we did. And, of course, also gardening. He has a stock of bananas that are just huge.
I had no idea. The Florida native bananas that I think of, and again, I don't know what the native variety.
Well, there really isn't a native variety. They're imported to Florida.
So again, my understanding of what I grew up with as a kid really was brought in. It was a banana that was probably brought in from somewhere else.
Exactly.
But the banana I'm most familiar with is the little tiny ones that we all see, and sometimes you see them in the store. That Publix started carrying them a few years ago, where you could buy the little tiny bananas. Now, you typically grow the Rajapura banana, which is supposed to be the sweetest banana in the world, right?
And it's very tasty. I think it's great. I don't know if I need that much sugar these days.
Well, let's talk about that, because if you're getting sugar that's trapped and binded into the fibers of a banana, that's a little different.
It is.
You can eat more sugar that's properly found in nature than you can if you're just going to grab for the granulated sugar from the sugarcane mill that you're going to dump on your cereal.
And there's also, everybody knows there's phosphorus in bananas, and there's also magnesium, another element that's important to us. So what I like about eating fresh fruit and vegetables is that you get all these natural ingredients that you need in an easy package.
Sure.
A banana's great because you can just open it up, take it with you on the run, and it's full of vitamins. And some people even take the banana peels. They wash the peel quite well. They'll cut it up into small pieces, and they'll put it in with tea. Because it'll give you more of there's still 87% more phosphorus in the skin. Mm-hmm. And that's an element that we need. And I've done that sometimes with some mint tea. The banana by itself doesn't have much flavor, but if you add like a little mint tea with it, then I think it's more palatable.
Well, and it's interesting that you say tea, because this is a great segue. It's something that's come up a couple of times on your YouTube channel. And for those that don't know, we do actively put up these shows that we do here on Sunday mornings. We do put them up on YouTube, on the Ask Mr. Greenthumb YouTube channel. And literally, it's all you have to do is type in Ask Mr. Greenthumb. Don't type in Dr. Greenthumb. That will actually come up with the rap video where they're talking about smoking marijuana, which is probably sponsored by Scott's Miracle Grow. But anyway, if you want to get to us, it's Ask Mr. Greenthumb. And and one of the things that keeps coming up is it's happened a few times, and again, we kind of go through a lull with the summer, but we'll pick them back up as advertisers in the fall, is with Black Cow. And somebody keeps asking, hey, can you show us how to make Black Cow tea? And I had no idea what they're talking about with this, but maybe you have an idea of what they're talking about.
Well, many things can be used in a liquid form, and let's face it, all things are used by a plant in a broken down form. Same thing for us. We may not want to think about it, but everything's broken down in our guts, in our stomach, and in our intestines. And that's how the process works. A lot of people think that by adding things to, let's say, a water, you could have it you could take manure if you wanted, and you could put it in a sieve type bag, let's say cheesecloth or something, and you could make like a tea from it that you could water your plants. Now, I wouldn't drink that.
Sure. No, and I think that's sort of something that's become popular, that's being done. I'm sure it's not new to Black Cow and the people that are the owners there, But it is something, because there's a ton of videos that really could be done to better illustrate other uses for that product. Someday I hope we're given the distinct privilege to do more videos for them. And if you don't know, if you go to the Black Cow's website, and that's BLACKKOW, so they do a K, not a C, for their products. You've probably seen their big yellow bags at Lowe's and at Home Depot, and anywhere, that fine products are sold like that. Big box stores typically have it.
We did some videos for them.
Right, and if you go to their website, you'll see under their link that there are some Ask Mr. Greenthumb videos where we featured some Black Cow products. And I'm happy to report some of the videos that we've done. Well, actually, I will say all the videos that he has up there that we were part of have the absolute most amount of views. I mean, one of the videos we did has 30,000 views or 1,100 hours of watch time. Some of the other videos he has up there that are kind of done by, actors and stuff, doesn't come anywhere close. And that's I think the point I would make there is that you can put together a carefully produced thing, but it really is about the knowledge factor of the person that's going to be talking about a product. And this is sort of my little marketing soapbox moment here.
Sure.
But you really do have to have somebody that's an expert in the field talking about a product and showing how to use it. That's really where the magic happens. You can't buy that with some carefully crafted thing, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's more important especially these how-to videos that you see everywhere. It's more important for people to try to solve the problem rather than tell you how to sell the product. And people get into telling you about the product rather than telling you why you need it. And that's one of the biggest issues that I see today in most of the videos that I watch or that I click off because they aren't meeting that criteria.
I think, there's a fine line that you have to be entertaining on radio, but we're also trying to be interesting. And people have asked me, I know over the years, I mentioned program directors ago, I used to do some imitations on occasion when I would give a program, and I'd go, because it makes it more entertaining. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm one of the few radio people out there who have ever, tried to do some stand-up, and I tried that a few years ago. Now, it was interesting. It was many years ago. And, until you've worked, an area where there's a bunch of drinkers in front of you, you don't know how that is.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, I think that's important, though, that we build and let people know a little bit about ourselves, and we're not just sterile and going over, we're not just reading heads. So, anyway.
Yeah. Well, with that noise, we're going to go pay some bills here, but please don't change that dial. You are listening to AM 860 with Stan DeFreitas Mr. Greenthumb, and we will continue here after the break.
Stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give them a call, 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And as James mentioned earlier, September is a good time to get your seeds ready, get your garden ready. This is our best gardening season coming up, the fall-winter season here. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant. You can grow all of that Solanaceae family if you wish, and I still think they're healthy. I know there's people out there that talk about lectins and problems, and yeah, they may be, but, I've eaten a bunch of tomatoes, and I never went, oh my gosh, I've got these lectins are killing me. Maybe there's something to it, but I also think, people like to sell a lot, and to sell things, you need to be controversial. So, don't eat that bread, don't eat that pasta, don't drink this coffee. Probably going to take 2 seconds off my life. Yeah, well, I'm going to drink the coffee anyway. You can take 2 seconds off my life. But
and I kind of reject that, too. I mean, the idea that you always have to be controversial. We have plenty of people out there that are controversial. And I don't know why it's become taboo to. Why can't you be loved by all? And this idea that you're only mediocre if everyone loves you. Well, I reject that. But I do know that is a common thing in society where a lot of people gravitate towards that. And I don't necessarily think that you have to operate that way.
I will say improving the soil, maybe even if you use earth boxes or you use some kind of a system you build yourself, if you can get out of the typical Florida backyard soil, we have nematodes in our soil, microscopic eelworms, and they will find your tomato plants. I assure you, even if you think you don't have them, you're going to find that they are going to be there.
That they are there. And that's one of the reasons why, container growing is really one of the areas that people... You don't know what you don't know until you try. And then when you try and you realize that you're having problems. And when people get nematodes, what are they going to notice? What are they going to see? What is the problem that people can identify right now when they have nematodes in their soil?
Well, the most common will be root knot nematode, and it'll be knots on the roots. It looks like you pull it up and you'll see this looking like an acorn on the base of many of your roots. Mm-hmm. There's also lance and spiral and sting and these other nematodes, which I'll mention to you, which you probably...
But what does it do to the fruit? What's the first thing that somebody's going to notice?
Well, the plant may be stilted. It'll be, you're going, gosh, the thing's starting to grow pretty good. I'm pretty happy. And then all of a sudden, it's not growing like it should.
The Leaning Tower of Pisa?
Yeah,
or shriveled up?
It just doesn't look as... doesn't look as thrifty, as strong as it should.
Gotcha.
And you're going,
Gotcha.
Gosh, I know I've fertilized it. I know that I've added organic matter. Now, I will say the more organic matter you put in, there are good bacteria out there that can eat upon nematodes. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the advantages of improving the soil. And so there are good bacteria, just like you and I. We have 1 trillion bacteria in our system. And I can't even imagine 1 trillion unless you talk about our national debt. But when you talk about 1 trillion of something, to me, it's mind-boggling.
Well, yeah, I can't think of 1 billion. I have trouble thinking of 1 million of something. It just doesn't, once we get beyond things that we are used to, we can think of 100 of something pretty easily, 1,000 of something potentially. Once we get into the hundreds of thousands of something, then, the numbers start to mean less.
It's hard to fathom.
It's hard to fathom. But yeah, so, container gardening is definitely something that, it's definitely going to be something that you're not used to, probably from up north, that you will have to get used to here. And, and it's... we have no allegiance, so if you want to make your own container gardening, box, we certainly can. Actually, we did a video on the YouTube channel where I should say, I helped make what I considered a forever container box, and
sure.
Wound up making it out of some of the plastic wood that you could buy at Home Depot. And, that stuff's all encapsulated, so I don't think you're going to have any problems. I did get a comment on YouTube where somebody said, the plastic's going to leach into the soil, it's going to get into the soil, it's going to get into your food, and you're basically going to eating plastic.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I had somebody say that, and I just said, well, I appreciate your opinion. Show me your degree and your PhD and biosciences, and they didn't get back to me on that. So
yeah, I was going to say, and you probably won't either. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm going to use that again. Right now, I've got lemongrass growing in there that I didn't necessarily plant. It came in. I will say I like lemongrass, but it almost becomes evasive.
Sure.
The seeds tend to spread, and then the first thing you know, you've got lemongrass where you don't want it. And
you have a lot of stuff growing where you didn't exactly want it to grow. But I will say this. Anybody who goes and gets a heart transplant, for that entire year, you get a pass on doing anything that's physically taxing. Because I did get to witness how much effort and time and energy goes into that, and it is a tremendous process. And we might add, too, something that you and I talk about all the time, is that, even if you're in your 30s, you probably, I know you're in your 30s, you're in optimum perfect health, until you're not. And so one of the things we've been talking about, for the last couple of months, probably because of your situation, I would say definitely because of your situation, is if you have something that you think is wrong, or you suspect there's something wrong, or you have a certain tightness in your chest, or you think that there could be something wrong, then one of the things that we're recommending people do is go talk to your general practitioner, go talk to them, or if you are able to just go see a cardiologist, go see a cardiologist. Now, I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving you medical advice, but I am telling you, I am giving you logic advice, which is if you're unsure and you think you have a problem, go get it checked out. Go see about getting a stress test where they run you on a treadmill, or if you're not able to run, they'll do a nuclear stress test. Or a nuclear stress test. And again, the big difference that I was told from my cardiologist was the nuclear stress test is done if you have some physical mobility challenges. So otherwise, they'd like to throw you on the treadmill and get you doing it that way. But at least this way they can find out if there's anything going wrong with your heart or if you're predisposed to having a problem. So we couldn't encourage people more to go get that checked out. Don't be a statistic. Be proactive in your health.
I've been a preacher of it, and I also will mention to folks that I'm not telling you what to do, but I have gone and had my third COVID shot because I'm somewhat immune compromised because I take 28 pills a day to keep so there's no rejection of the heart. If you are in doubt, I'm going to recommend that you go get your shot. And it's not a political thing.
Exactly. Stay tuned. We're here on AM 860, and we'll continue talking about gardening and or real estate.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, FloridaAuctionTeam.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am Stan, and you are James. And we, of course, I talk about horticulture a lot, but James is a broker associate and knows a lot about real estate. I'm also a real estate agent, so I think between us we have probably 30 years of real estate experience.
Absolutely. I would say, and don't sell yourself short. I mean, you've been through a lot of deals. We've been through a lot of deals together, and we've seen a lot of things that happen and things that, and one of the things I always like to stress is, you are never going to be short in real estate of having the cheerleader effect. And what do I mean by that? The people in high school that you grew up with that were on that cheerleading squad and the guys that were in the varsity football team, these are a lot of what happens is that real estate can sometimes become an extension of people who won't let go of their vainglory from their past, and I'm not, and again, sometimes they can harness that, because in real estate, it really is sort of a popularity contest for a lot of the agents out there in terms of how many people that they know, like, and trust, and how many people will wind up using them. And again, that's not a knock, but what I do think is more interesting to talk about isn't the success stories. I think it's more interesting to talk about things that blew up, became a problem, and then the agent found a way to get around it. Now, often that gets talked about, and then people, most of the agents that we've had on the show usually want to avoid that like the plague because it doesn't fit into their cheerleader mindset.
Right.
And that's a shame because real knowledge comes from having a problem and being able to get through that adversity and figuring out a way to do it. Now, it depends on where you're at. Maybe you're in a situation where, you have a very active broker who will call you back and be able to help address a problem with you or give you advice on what you should do in that particular situation. Remember, I know a lot of people that listen to our show are just, are not real estate agents that, just have a general interest in gardening, or maybe they like hearing a little bit about real estate, the business itself. But remember, agents are people, and, and they don't know everything. I mean, even the attorneys that help advise brokerages have to look stuff up and try to find out what the right protocol is for doing things.
Sure, especially if there's a problem.
Right. And sometimes those problems, sometimes it can be, not even the agent's fault. There can be situations where the client is the problem. And more often than not, it usually is the client that's the problem. And again, it's not to always blame somebody else, but sometimes it is the client. Sometimes you have a situation where, the client isn't following the rules, despite the fact that you told them what the rules were. Sure. And, that can be challenging. And it's challenging to educate your client without sounding like you're nagging your client, or that you're, trying to claim the moral high ground. So that can be a bit challenging as well. We had a situation one time where a client decided they were going to take a refrigerator out the very last day, right before the walkthrough. And let me tell you, that created a big problem.
Sure.
And so one of the things that Stan and I said is, we said, well, geez, we're going to wind up having to buy a refrigerator here out of our commission dollars, a refrigerator we're never going to be able to use. Now, it worked out. We were able to get it done. But again, you have to be able to think about things. If a client just, does it on their own, then it's going to be a situation, it's going to be a problem that you're going to have to address. And if you don't have a solution, and you're sitting back and you're muddled in your thinking, it'll get worse. So, attack the problem head on and come up with solutions. Try to think just like chess. You need to, and this is probably good life advice. Have 2 or 3 different contingency plans for everything that you're trying to accomplish, and things will go better.
Sure. Have a contingency for a contingency if you can.
Exactly.
And it's hard to do that, but being a chess player that I am, you've got to look 3 moves down the road to see what could happen.
Right.
And if you do that, you'll win more times than not.
Right. I mean, you and I are no Bobby Fischer. I can think about 3 moves ahead, and then beyond that,
it's hard.
I'm not, to me in chess, I'm always thinking about, well, all right, well, if they'll do this, then I could do that, and that's probably very amateur Bush League thinking, but that's why I am not Bobby Fischer.
When he tried to, when I was a youngster, my father brought me down to Webb City, and that was a big thing back then. And if I remember, I was young, very young, but Bobby Fischer was there he was a youngster too, a teenager, and he had like 10 people with chessboards lined up. He went down and played each one of them, and of course he beat everybody there because he was another level. Now, he tried to take that to music, and it didn't work.
Right.
Just because you're a genius in one area doesn't mean, and that usually means that you started out young in an area, you become great in one area, but it doesn't mean it's going to transfer, across the board everywhere.
And it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. People need to realize what they're good at, they should be good at. And then, again, we're good at what we decide to spend 100,000 hours becoming good at.
That's what our good artist buddy, Caleb, or Jeffrey, and actually it's funny with Jeffrey, now here's a story I'll tell with James. Caleb was one of our clients, and he had a condo we helped him sell. We actually helped get him into the condo, but he moved down to Ecuador. Now, I was worried about Jeffrey because he's in a motorized wheelchair. And I said, gosh, you're going into a mountainous, going to be probably cobblestone roads and stoned and stuff. And sure enough, his wheelchair broke first day in. But James, being Mr. Computer that he is, got on the internet and found him somebody that could weld his wheelchair for him nearby in Ecuador, which to me is an amazing feat. And Jeffrey just said, that is fantastic. Didn't quite use that word, but fantastic service that James would worry about him in Ecuador. Now, well, we like Jeffrey. I mean, it was not just a matter of do we look at our clients as somebody we help, but we look at them as, in many cases, good friends.
Right. And to me, again, if I had one advice for especially new agents, try not to chase the money. Try chasing just doing the right thing and be helpful.
Sure.
And the money will come. But remember, it's a super competitive field, and everybody and their brother's in it. You throw a rock, you're going to hit 37 agents. Don't throw the rock, and no, I wasn't advocating for you to throw a rock.
And that's in a group of 40.
That's right. There is a ton of people out there in the business.
There's 8 agents for every deal out there right now.
Right. And then I can't quote whatever August was yet because some of the stats aren't out for that, but I can certainly tell you that for much of this year, the average agent was writing 7 deals to bag the 8th deal. So that's how competitive it had become in Pinellas and Hillsborough counties. Is that that's the buyers were having to put in 7 different offers on 7 different places to get the 8th deal. So and not only that, but you'd factor in love letters. What's a love letter? Well, I'm the best candidate to purchase this home, and then they'll include that along with the offer. Now, I think at some point you probably have to look at it, and you have to say to yourself, geez, I could see some ethical complaints being lobbed there, and I think my personal opinion on the love letters is it's going to get you into more trouble than it's worth.
But I'm helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, clean, reverent, and obedient.
Right, right. But my overall thought process on the love letters is that you potentially are going to encounter some legal problems down the road because of it. And I think that it would be best if they just made a ruling and said, no, we think to make it an equal playing field, we're not going to do that, because I don't necessarily know if some of the information that's being bestowed should be used or should be allowed for the seller to know in order for them to choose you over another buyer. I think in our society, and now I'm Christian. I think it's so if somebody told me they were the best Christian ever, yeah, that's fine by me. I don't really care. But in our society, should we be choosing someone because they're the best Christian over an atheist? I don't know. It's a sticky wicket, because we're supposed to treat everyone the same. And when we do these love letters, we're not doing that anymore.
We're trying to stack the deck a little.
We're stacking the deck.
I remember talking to all my staff at the hospital, but I wanted them to treat me just as great as they could, because, putting that IV in correctly is so much better than if somebody just says, I'll start poking.
Oh, yeah. And in your situation,
But I like folks anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, when it's life and death in the hospital, and so often it is, you and I spoke about this with your couple of months in the hospital stay. Isn't it better to be the happy patient that nurses want to come in to help, rather than being the horrible patient that's complaining and irritated and irritable all the time? And I think again, this is going to sound terrible, because I'm sure the nurses are told you give them all the same care no matter. But I'm going to tell you that if you're a nicer person, the odds of you receiving better care probably are a little higher.
Probably. Well, I think, you develop a camaraderie with somebody, and it helps.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that people should take in kind. You should definitely remember that person is there to help you in your life, and to try to make sure that you have one.
but I've also looked at life in general. When I see people, I'm friendly in real estate, I'm friendly in the office. I find life is better in general. You can either be the negative Nelly, and I had a father-in-law like that, God rest his soul, who was negative about everything. I mean, you hated to drive with him because...
Now, Stan, why didn't you take up a good habit like smoking?
Yeah, Al was a curmudgeon, and I say that...
lived to be in his late 80s, I believe.
Smoked like a fiend.
Yeah.
Blew smoke rings at you.
What, you don't like the smoke, Stan?
He was a character, and but God love him.
Yep, different time and era, but it takes all kinds, and that's one of the things we see in the real estate world is all kinds of personalities.
Well, we love all kinds of listeners out there, so we want you to think about giving us a call and being part of our show sometime.
Absolutely. Stay here on AM 860 as we talk about gardening and real estate.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give them a call. 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to help you with both real estate and gardening. I was going to say, in the gardening line, if you need to do a little bit of trimming sometimes, I trimmed my avocado a little bit the other day just because it was going out into the sidewalk, and I didn't want to be tangling up people, walking by. But I've had not as many avocados this year as last year, but I wasn't here to water them. Mm-hmm. I was in the hospital, and no one really thought about. I normally go out and make sure it gets extra water during that bloom period. Because if everything's great, it'll put on more fruit. And if it's not great, the tree goes,
suffers.
It goes, all right, well, we won't put on as many fruit because we don't know if we can handle it.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. And I'm sticking to it.
Well, you should have, your opinion should matter more than most in that area. So you are Mr. Green Thumb.
I've enjoyed gardening. People say, well, have you grown stuff? Well, I've grown broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. And maybe for the fall here, I'm thinking of getting my boxes filled, probably by you. With,
joy.
With dirt. And so I can play again with some growing things because I enjoy practicing what I preach. And I have raised, when you were a little kid, I raised a 57-pound pumpkin and brought it into the extension service, which I think they still have a slide somewhere in the extension file there, which they used to use on programs, just to show that I actually did practice what I preached. And I do, and I love it. To me, the thing about gardening is you can take all that frustration. Somebody cuts you off on 19. Yeah, don't pull a gun and go follow them and shoot them. Go home and pound on the ground, pull that weed, do that, and you will be better off. Now, coming into the fall, too, we're going to a cooler season. I admit, in the middle of July and August, you can work up a sweat walking to the mailbox. So it just becomes so miserable when it's, 98 degrees and 100% humidity, you don't really have the same enthusiasm.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, it's going to the mailbox, you can work up a sweat. I mean,
meteorologically, I said that right.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
nailed it.
I was going to say, anyway, from a meteorological standpoint, we are now in the fall. But it doesn't necessarily feel in Florida like we flipped the switch and we're now in the fall.
Right.
You won't see the trees changing color and things. Now, once we get a freeze, well, 2 or 3 months, you may. But it's funny. I'm part of this area and also the Central Garden area. I'm in their garden group too. To me, it's different. Now, over there, I get a lot of feedback. Sometimes people want to plant, real tropicals in the middle of the state. And I go, well, you've got away with it up till now. But when we do get a hard freeze sometime, try to cover that 30-foot tree, you'll find that Royal Poinciana will probably die. Mm-hmm. But I've had people go, nah, you don't know what you're knowing. We're and maybe, with the world warming a tad, mm-hmm. we may move those areas.